Hey, you guys, welcome to the New Era podcast hosted by me, Kourtney. This is a fresh space where we talk love, life, growth, money moves, marriages, relationships, mindset, and everything in between. And I do mean everything in between. This is where real talk meets wisdom, humor, conversations that help us grow through what we're going through. Whether you're navigating relationships, leveling up in life, or just need a word, you're in the right place. It's time to align and embrace your next era. Y'all, I am so excited. Y'all, season one has already wrapped up months ago by the time you hear this podcast. And we're now in season two, season one, and now season two. And I am so excited. As you can see, I have a special guest. If you're actually watching us and not just listening to us, you see the special guest up here with me, y'all. I am so excited. I had to bring season two in with a bang. Season one ended like, oh my gosh, chef's kiss. Now, season two, I had to get, some power pack for women on here to talk and to share their story. So I'm going to stop talking because I can't go on and on. So at this moment, I'm going to bring on Kimberly Speights, right?
That is right.
Okay, good. That last name be having me messed up sometimes because it look a little complicated, but it's really not. So I'm gonna bring on this woman of God, y'all. I got a chance to actually hear her speak a couple of times, and not only that, I actually went to high school with her. Now, she was probably when I was in high school, probably came in as a freshman, and she graduated with my brother. She probably don't remember him, but that's okay. And so she's like two grades ahead of me. So of course she didn't remember me, but I do remember her and her beautiful self walking around the hall with all that beautiful hair. And I know that's what she was known as, that dark, beautiful hair. I mean, gorgeous. And so I was like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty and so petite. So of course I was just a fan, and she didn't know me. But so yeah, when I got a chance to actually get her book and read it, y'all, it was so impactful. It was mind blowing, and it would change so many lives. So I had to get her on the New Era podcast to share her story, what she's been through. And of course, we're not going to talk about the deets of the book so much because we want you to purchase it, of course. So yeah, at this moment, I'm going to bring on the wonderful Kimberly. And y'all, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to ask her to just share just kind of like where you started. Because like I said, I read the book, but just kind of give us a background of who you are.
Absolutely. So first of all, let me just pause for a moment and tell you thank you so much. You never know people are even watching. Like I told you earlier, in high school, I was in survival mode. So like, it's not that I didn't want to remember people. I was literally just focusing on surviving. So I grew up in a home. My mom was addicted to drugs. My dad was an alcoholic. I lived with my mom. I stayed with my dad, on the weekends. I can't honestly say he didn't have much. But the one thing that I always cherish is he always had time for me. He always made time to just spend time with me. It was just a lot of dysfunction in the home, very abusive. And just in hindsight, I realized my mom didn't know who she was. And so in that event, not excusing her behavior, a lot of that was just taken out on me. And it was just a lot of physical abuse. Whenever she was in a relationship and it went sour, I took the blunt end of the relationship. And then she met a guy that moved in. He stayed with us a couple of years. I thought he was a really cool guy. Thought he was good. Never thought he was my dad. Never even wanted to look at him in that way, but I thought he was a cool guy. And then one particular night, he was in my bedroom and was raping me. And my mom was in the next room. And so when I mentioned it to her, what happened, she asked me if I wanted to see a hypnosis. And of course, he continued to stay with us. And so that just kind of led me down a path of just really, again, just trying to survive. I connected with a major drug dealer in Alabama, got caught up in that lifestyle, told him my deepest, darkest secrets. He took those and used them against me. And then just kind of held me into a place of, I had no access to my family, no access to my friends, no one. And of course, that relationship was abusive. But I thought it was okay because I felt like if my mom, abused me then, and she said she loved me, clearly he had to love me. So I took it as just a normal behavior. This was a normal thing in any type of relationship. And so He got caught. And when he got caught, he was sentenced to 35 years. It was nothing but God's grace that I was able to walk away from that without serving any time. I did get some misdemeanor charges, which are still on my record to this day. But again, when there's purpose in you and God has graced you, I've walked in many positions and was honest about the misdemeanor charges and was still able to work. And then after all of that, I met my husband.
Well, let me stop you right there, Kim.
Sure.
So in the time frame, so were you in high school during this time when all of this took place? So I know you
Yes,
said
I was
you
in
were
high
in
school.
survival mode.
Mhm.
So were you dealing with all of that?
Yes, all of that in high school, all of that throughout. I would say the abuse started when I was probably about 5. Some of the things I do remember, even as a little girl, I do remember, but it happened all the way through high school, up until really a couple of years after high school.
Mm. Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
as far as your parents, like, did your mom did she know the lifestyle that you was living?
Um, I'm gonna say probably no, and I say that simply because she was caught up in that drug. At that this time, she had moved from. She started with marijuana, it bumped up to cocaine, and then she was at crack. So I think when she got to that place where she was in that crack addiction, I don't think she saw anything. I think she just had tunnel vision as to getting high. So I don't think she did. I just think she thought, oh, she's just gone out with her little boyfriend, or I don't even think she realized I wasn't there. Like, I don't even think she realized that.
Were you the only sibling?
Yes, for
Oh,
21 years, I was the only sibling. And then she had my brother when I was 21.
hmm. Wow. Interesting. Wow.
Yes.
It's interesting. Was she on drugs during that time?
Yes. She ended up, my brother ended up born addicted to crack. And my aunt stepped in and took custody so the state wouldn't take him. And then a couple of years into that, her health began to decline. And I ended up having to get custody of my brother because her kidneys failed. She went into congestive heart failure. And so she wasn't able to physically take care of my brother. And so I got custody of my brother and I raised him to the age of about 16.
Mm. Let's
Yeah.
just soak that in. That's a lot. That is a lot. And a person that like everybody don't make it out mentally.
Absolutely. And when I tell you that's been my utmost thank you to God that I'm in my right mind. Like, I think so often about people that have been in those situations. I've met young ladies that have been in abusive relationships and literally their mind is tormented. And so that's something I daily like I can't even count how many times a day I stop and say, God, I thank you. I'm in my right mind. Because that it was just so, I mean, there were times I did I attempted to commit suicide. And it's grace that I survived. I literally had a gun to my head, pulled the trigger, nothing happened. And it was literally grace. When I say it was grace because I was just tired. I just got to a place where I was just sick and tired of everything. Like, I was tired of living. I was tired of being with him. I was tired of, jumping on this private jet, knowing what's underneath it, not knowing if we're going to land somewhere and the feds are going to pop out. We couldn't go anywhere because he was always paranoid. He would pay, buy out a restaurant just so we could eat dinner because he's afraid. And so just all of that, and then him constantly looking at me to see if I'm turning state's evidence on him, if I'm snitching on him, if I've had conversations with anybody, and you think, well, how can I? You don't let me go around anybody. And so all of those things, not being accepted or loved by my mom, growing up, my name was stupid. And so all of those things just compiled to the point where I was just like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm done. Like, what's the point in living? Like, this just not it for me. And so it was at that very moment, I thought it was the Percocets talking because I heard a voice say go. And I was just like, okay, let me take another Percocet because maybe I'm just hearing things and, I'm not nulling the pain enough. But I literally had the gun to my head, pulled the trigger, nothing happened. And I heard a voice just as clear as you and I are talking say go. And I just kept laying there going, if I move, he's going to wake up. Like he was an extremely light sleeper. If I turned over, he turned over. If I, yawned real hard or stretched real hard, he is waking up. He didn't move. And the voice just got louder and stronger, and it just kept saying, go. And I was terrified. And that was the moment I walked away. Didn't walk away empty handed, grab me a little cash at the nightstand, but I did. I walked away and I never looked back. I
So what
literally,
age was that?
I was probably about 17 and a half, maybe. Yeah.
So you were still in high school.
I was still in high school and nobody knew what was going on. Everybody just thought I dressed well. I had nice things because they figured maybe my mom. And no, that was from that lifestyle. It was literally from that lifestyle. My senior year, I was driving a Mustang.
Mm.
And everybody was like, oh, your dad or your mom got you a car. I was like, yep, my dad got me a car.
Mm-hmm. Wow. See, we never know what people are going through. We never know what people are facing in that moment, young or old. And I know that sometimes people judge them or not like you. I'm quite sure you had a lot of girls that didn't like you because you were pretty and all that, and had nice things. Of course, and there was high school, so it was like that. And so, but they had no idea what you was facing mentally. Like you said, you was just trying to survive.
That's it.
Wow.
Wow. No idea. And I got teased often because I was quiet. And, I guess being pretty and quiet wasn't a good mix in high school. And I'm just like, you think I'm quiet because I'm being antisocial. I'm quiet because in my mind, I'm trying to figure out how do I survive this day? Like either I'm going to deal with him or I'm going to deal with my mama. Either way, I got to figure something out. And so I think people took that as me being antisocial or bougie or stuck up. And it wasn't. It was me in survival mode, literally trying to figure out when I leave school, where do I go? Am I going to go home to my mom or am I going to go home with him? Either way, it's just like, didn't want either, but didn't have choice.
So when you just left, like you left that lifestyle, you left where? Where did you go?
I walked home. I literally walked all the way home in my pajamas with my little stash of money. And I actually, when I say home, my grandmother's house, I went to my grandmother's house in East Birmingham. And you have to understand how generational curses work. My grandmother had the mindset of whatever happened at my mama's house was her business. We don't talk about it. When I walked in, it was, where you came from? And I just said home. She was like, okay. Nothing was asked of where were you or anything. And she had my grandmother had called my mom and said I was there. She came by. She had just had an argument with her boyfriend. And that's when she pulled the knife on me and threatened to kill me. And the hurtful part was we were in the kitchen at my grandmother's house and my mama was beating me with a cast iron skillet. My grandmother, my grandfather, my aunt, and my two cousins were in the next room. Nobody came to save me. It wasn't until she put the knife to my throat that my aunt came in and said, okay, that's enough. She left and went back to her boyfriend. And that's when I wrote the letter to Miss McLaughlin, my high school teacher, who was also my pastor's wife. I wrote a letter to her. And by law, she had to call DHR. As a teacher, you don't have that option. I was writing the letter in hopes that, she would save me. And I remember being put in the back of the police car, being escorted to DHR. And I was just like, now I feel like I'm being, treated like a criminal. But I didn't do anything. And Deborah and I have had so many conversations after that. And she was just like, you don't know how bad I wanted to just take you away. She said, but I couldn't because you wrote a letter. It was on paper and I couldn't, hide that. And so went to foster care for a little while, called home or called to my grandmother's parents to talk to them or called home to talk to my grandparents. And my granddaddy cussed me out because I put the white folks in our business. Yeah. So yeah, it was a debacle. Just going home. And of course they took me back out the system. My grandparents got custody of me, which in turn, they sent me back to my mama and I just did not stay. I left and went back to the drug dealer.
I was what happened to the cash and money?
Oh, I kept that here.
Okay, you kept it. Okay, good.
Yes,
I
yes.
was
I think
wondering.
I took maybe about $20,000 because it was something he had. He kept light change I know you looking at me like 20,000.
20,000,
Yeah. That was
especially back then.
right. That was his chunk change in the nightstand. So I was like, I can't leave here with nothing now. So, but yeah.
So you went back to him and he knew you took the money?
No, he was so
Oh,
paranoid, child. He didn't know if he spent it or smoked it
oh
up.
okay.
By then,
Okay.
he started using some of the product. So he was at an even higher stage of paranoia.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're back at with him. So where was that? Like, I'm done, and the space
Uh,
of you meeting your husband, your now husband.
we went to Bahamas or Hawaii. I don't remember which one. And we were on the private jet. We got there and something just didn't feel right. Then I wasn't really in a relationship with God. I didn't recognize that it was the Holy Spirit, but something didn't feel right. So I said, "Hey, I just want to go home." And he was like, the only person he trusted me with was his cousin. And he was like, "Well, if she going home, you can go home." So I was like, "Please, can we just go home?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. That's fine." Because we had been there already for maybe like a week. So we left. And the day we left, we came back, no problems, no issues. I went back home because I knew he was still there. He came back maybe a couple of days later. When he stepped off the plane, the feds got him. And that's when he was sentenced to 35 years. So I ended up just staying at home with my mom and just dealing with that. And she was still working at the time, and my husband was a truck driver, still is. And he came by her job and saw my picture on her desk and asked, could he get my number? And she was just like, "No, you're too old." But she ended up giving it to him anyway. So we talked, and he seemed like a really nice guy. And I just was like, "Oh, okay, we'll talk." And it'll keep me out the house is what I'm thinking. So we went out on a couple of dates. He never, tried anything. He never, tried to kiss me or any of that. Never tried to have sex with me. And I was like, okay, he gay. So we were in this right here. I was like, yeah. And he's, I was just like, well, I could just kill time by still just dating him, but it won't go anywhere. And the more we dated, the more I realized, I'm like, this guy's really nice, but like, what's wrong? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I finally asked him, I was like, what's wrong that you don't want to have sex with me? You don't want to kiss? He's like, I don't know you like that. Like, we got to build something before we get to that. But I had never experienced that with a guy. Every guy I've been with, it was like, oh, we got to have sex after at least the second, third date. So I thought something was wrong. And we just continued to date. And we really first became like the best of friends. Like, we hung out all the time. We did things. And then it grew to a place where I really didn't understand, like, why was I feeling this way about this guy, because I had never experienced real love. It was always, I got to give you something in exchange. And so, I just didn't understand it, but I enjoyed it. Like, I literally enjoyed his company. And so we continued to date. Then we got engaged, and then we got married. And probably about maybe 8 years into our marriage, the drug dealer ended up getting out early, and we reconnected, and I went back to him. Yes. Yes.
Wait, you took me too fast, son. I thought we were just on a love story and y'all were just happily ever after. But wait a minute. Was this in the book? Because I don't remember this. Okay.
It's in the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember the drug dealer situation because I was just shocked. But yeah, and I finished that book because that book had me locked in. I was like, lifetime. This is lifetime. So, while we're talking about some inserts in the book, can you just go ahead and give the name of the book and where the people can find it?
From Dangerous, Disastrous, Dysfunction to Destiny. And it can be found on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. Yeah. And then if you're local here in the Birmingham area, I do deliver so that I can autograph the book for you. But yeah.
Oh, awesome. And I'm going to put it in the description of this podcast as well as this video. So, and I'm going to put the link in there so people can just click the link and purchase the book. Okay, so now let's go.
I know. Woosah.
Okay, so you met your fiance. So, and what was the age difference? Because your mom said he's too
Was
old.
5 years up. He's 5 years older than me.
Okay,
But you know how folks feel like that's back then that was too old.
Yeah. So what was the age was it when you met him?
I was 21.
Okay. So yeah. Okay, so that wasn't too bad.
Well, actually, I wasn't. I was 18 when I met him.
Oh, okay.
We got married when I was 21.
Okay, so yeah, your mom was like, child, you grown, honey. She's still in the teens area of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can understand that. So, okay, so now, you like y'all in love and you never felt this before. And then so, okay, now bring me up forward because I had to process that because I wasn't expecting that plot twist. So now, girl, child, y'all, you should have been a wrote a movie, honey. So now we are here to where you engaged, but then the drug dealer get out.
No. Okay. We weren't engaged. We were married.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
Yeah, we were married.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Yes, we were married. Yeah, okay. We're going to tell the truth and shame the devil. Yes, we were married. He was on the road. When we met, he was just a dock worker, and then he moved to a city driver. So I was cool because he was home every day. Then he moved to being an over-the-road driver. And when you haven't healed areas, the enemy knows that. And so I wasn't healed. I never healed the little girl in me. And so the enemy played on that. Like, you married this man. He said he loved you. Now you're lonely. Now you back to where you were when you were a little girl. And then my mom was sick. I had to take my brother. So I'm dealing with that. Then I had my son, and it was just so much. And I was just like, I just need an outlet. And I went out one night and he was there. And we sat and we talked and, we just chopped it up. And then one thing led to another. And then we just started going out of town together. He was like, you need a vacation. Again, the enemy uses the same tricks. It ain't nothing new. I know you're lonely. I know you're tired. Let me fly you to Vegas. Let me fly you here. And I was just like, yeah, I need a vacation. And coming back from a trip to Atlanta one weekend, I came home and I walked in the door and I saw like all these suitcases and, like, what's going on? Like, where these suitcases come from? And my husband said to me, when you learn how to be a wife, then you can be a mom. And when I saw him pack my son up to take him away, I was devastated. Like, that's my baby. And he was like, you don't deserve your baby because you haven't been a mom to him. And it was at that moment I was like, I got to get my life together. I'm fixing to, not only lose my son, but I'm losing a marriage. And then my brother was in the mix. Like, what kind of dysfunction did you bring him in, Kim? And so at the time, my uncle was my pastor, Albert Bryce Sr., full of wisdom. And I went to him and I told, I've always been a transparent person. I don't believe in, oh, girl, it was just, a little this or that. No. I went to my uncle and I was like, look, I done went back to this dope dealer. I'm about to lose my husband and my son. What I'm going to do? And I knew that I could always be honest with my uncle. And he took me into his bathroom and he did something that changed my life. He said, I want you to look in this mirror. I stood there and I looked in the mirror and he was like, you can't close your eyes. You can't turn away. You can't do anything. You got to look in this mirror. And I was like, dude, don't you know I'm fine? But okay. So I'm standing there looking in this mirror and I'm just like, oh, my eyebrows. And then after a few minutes, I started to see the real me. And I was like, no, let's do it. He was like, no, you got to look. And I was like, no, I'm good. And he literally held my face and made me face me. And I began to see all of the choices that I was making. And God was showing me that I was going to have a daughter. And if I didn't get me together, he showed my daughter doing the things that I was doing, being with, in those times. And I just broke down and he was like, until you deal with her, you can't go back to your husband and your son. You got to heal her. And so I spent time with my uncle, really learning how to heal. My uncle was always literally my savior at times. He would save me from my mom. Like there was a time he jumped on my mama when she was trying to kill me. And so he literally was the person that helped to heal me. And so from that, I just began to spend time with God, figuring out who I was. Like, why am I still alive? Why did I survive all of this stuff? Like, what is it that you want from me?
Right.
And then, so, just that healing journey. And once I got healed, I I went back home, but I had to kind of distance myself from everybody just because and I told my husband, give me this moment, this time to deal with me. There's some areas that I've got to heal, because if I don't, I can't be what you need. I can't be what our son needs. I can't even be what my brother needs. And so I just spent time healing. And I think that's important for women, before we jump in. I should have never got married when I did. I should have married my husband, definitely. But when I got married, I should not have, because I wasn't healed.
Right.
And I brought all of that baggage into my marriage. And so just spending time healing, working on finding out what my purpose was, building a relationship with God, not a religion where I was just like, oh, I went to church today, let's check that box. It was, I really wanted a relationship with God. I wanted to get to know the person that really thought so much of me, that you love me even when I was corrupt. You still loved me. You still wanted me as your daughter, even when I didn't want nothing to do with you. Like, I can't blame everything on the drug dealer. There were some choices I intentionally made. Like, I wanted to do this. I'm going to do this. And God still loved me. Like, he still wanted me to be his daughter. Like, he didn't disown me as his daughter. And so that was important to me, to get to know who this man was that loved me beyond my foolishness. And so, yeah, I just spent time healing.
Wow. That's a lot. So the time frame, as far as, when, because I'm in that time frame, did you get saved? Were you all, I know you said that you didn't want like religion, you wanted a relationship. So did you say, okay, the sinner's prayer, salvation, did that start it? Or, some people kind of backslide and then they come back. So did you get saved in between that process?
Yes, I absolutely, as a little girl, we got baptized because that was the thing back then. But, I didn't know why I was getting baptized. The other kids got baptized. I wanted to get in the swimming pool too, So during the time that I really focused on healing and building my relationship with Christ, for me, it wasn't the sinner's prayer. It was literally me sitting down. I love to journal. I've always been someone to journal. That's how my book was so easy to write, because I was always writing my life. That was therapy for me. I didn't know that's what it was, but for me, that's what it's always been. And I just began, I remember the blank sheet of paper going, who am I? That's where I started. I was just like, okay, God, who am I? Like, who am I? Like, I want you to tell me. Like, I have real talk conversations with God. I don't do this, oh, Father God, no.
Right.
Look here, I need you to answer this question. And I literally would sit there and just wait on him to talk to me, because I realized in those moments when I was trying to kill myself, it was him that was talking to me. And I was like, just like you talked to me when I tried to pull that trigger and kill myself, I need you to talk to me now. I need to know who I am. I can't continue to go through life not knowing who I am, because that's the part I'm messing up on. Like, I didn't know how valuable I was. I didn't know that, that I had authority and power. I didn't know those things. And so, I started reading the Bible, and I just started with, finding out like what books of the Bible should I start with that focuses on self-worth, who I am. And I started in the New Testament. Most people say, well, you should start in the Old Testament. I started in the New Testament because that's where I found out what Christ did for me. And that was a price, that he paid. And I wanted to know why. Why did you do that for me? What was it about me that made you want to die? And so I just spent time in that. And once I realized who I was, how valuable I was, how much of a threat I was to the enemy, that's when I said, okay, I got to surrender my entire life to Christ. Like, I immediately said, I surrender the seat of authority of my life to you. I don't want to make any more decisions. And so at that moment, I also prayed because my uncle had died. And I was like, okay, God, you got to send me somewhere where I can worship you in spirit and in truth. I don't want to just be, hey, we threw an altar call, so you got to get off the altar. I don't want to be at that type of place. I want to be somewhere where if I want to lay down at the altar, I'm free to do that without somebody saying, why is she down here? Don't she know he preaching?
Mm.
And my daughter had brought home a flyer from school a year prior. And I heard the Spirit say, look on your desk. And I'm like, well, what am I looking for? But I just kept looking. And when I came across the flyer, God said, that's it. And I was like, sir, it's not Easter. So why am I looking at a flyer about an Easter egg hunt? You know, that's the conversation I had with God. And he was like, turn the paper over. You know, he dealing with me in slow lady language. And I turned the paper over and there were directions to Love Fellowship Christian Center. I went and I've never left. That Sunday, I said to God, I want to lay on the altar because I need to surrender me on the altar. It's good that I said it, but I want to lay on your altar, the sacred place, and surrender all of me. And I walked up to the altar. I don't even remember what they were doing in service. And I just laid on the altar. And before I started just praying, I was like looking out the corner of my eye thinking, okay, who finna come get me? Nobody came. And I began to literally just lay on. I remembered when I got up from the altar, church was over. But the pastor, the first lady, and some other people were literally, their hands were on me just praying for me. And I got up and people were just hugging me. And I loved it because nobody said, girl, what was going on that you've been at this altar all day? It was people literally going, God, meet her at the point of her knees. God, whatever it is, God, intercede on her behalf. And I was just like, oh my God, this home, I ain't going nowhere. And we had a new members class, and in that new members class was you had to take a survey about the gifts, the calls and the gifts on your life. And in that moment, I realized that God was calling me into ministry, but I never said anything because I've never wanted the spotlight. I never wanted the microphone. I just want to be the one in the background, you know, just kind of telling my story a little bit to certain people, you know, to this small group. And my pastor came up to me and he said, there's ministry in you. Now you talk to God and find out when you need to come out so that you can operate in what he's called you. And I was like, yeah, no, appreciate you, but no. And that's how I told my pastor, I was like, appreciate it, but I'm good right here. I'm good on this pew. You know, I got you. You know, I'm the watchman on the wall because intercession is my first gift. I'm a true intercessor. And I was like, I got you. I'm on the wall. I got you covered. I'm covering the saint. I got you. And he was like, okay. And then the next thing I know, I'm slowly operating in ministry. I was like, let me pull back because see, he think he's slick, but I got you. And it took off from there. And I love that, you know, we have so many classes at church that are continuously building on our gifts and our calls. And so, and I now teach a small group every fall when the little girl is running the grown woman. I teach that small group every single fall at our church because we got to heal that little girl, because if not, that's who running us. And every now and then she try to sneak her head up and be like, you gonna let him talk to you that like that in your marriage? And I'd be like, yep, now go sit down. Yeah, go sit down. This ain't what you want, little girl. And so, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so the drug dealer, it seemed like y'all reconnected like once he got out, you know, you told that story. So, but did you go and visit him? Like, how was that? I mean, because I don't know you said 30.
Back then we had beepers. So you page me, I'm gonna call you and you tell me what time the plane leaving, because he had a private, he still had this girl, he was still doing the same thing.
Okay.
He was still in the same lifestyle, which I knew he was.
Right.
And I think to this day he's still in it.
Oh, wow.
That's not something he could easily walk away from. He was too heavily connected. So he would just meet me at the airport, go to hangar, blah, 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 and the jet's ready. And so, you know, we would just go on vacation.
So you had and still do have a wonderful husband to take you back after all of that.
Yes.
So what was that like? You know, because I don't know why I was thinking your daughter was the oldest, because I have seen them grow up on Facebook, you know, when they were small to them now. So I was thinking your daughter was the oldest. So what was that like as far as, you know, once you got, you know, you dedicated your life to Christ and now you are, you know, changed your path and now you're living for him and for your purpose. So did he accept you after that, or did you kind of have to build your way, because trust is broken after that?
Absolutely. We went to counseling. We went to marriage counseling with our pastor because I thought that was important. because there were some things that I'm sure he wanted to know that he hadn't had an opportunity to ask me, like why. And I wanted to give him that space to do that. Because I felt that that was important for us to be able to heal and go forward, because we can't go forward if we still, sweeping stuff under the rug, because eventually we're going to trip over it. So let's just go ahead and pull the rug up and let's get all that from up under the rug and address it. And so we went to counseling and we talked about those things. Was it hard? Absolutely. It was extremely hard. And so we both healed together in our marriage. But it took time, it took time for him to really trust me. Like I could tell, like, if I said I was going someplace, I could, kind of see that side eye in him, and I would just try to find ways to reassure him. If I said I was coming over your house, I just, when I get to your house, I call and say, hey, babe, I was just letting you know I'm here, at Kourtney's house. And, he would hear you in the background or something, just whatever I could do to reassure him that, I am where I say I am. I'm with who I'm with. And I changed. And one thing I did was I changed playmates. The girlfriends I used to have, I no longer had, because I knew that, they were the ones that be like, yeah, I tell him you with me. And I knew I couldn't win his trust. And I knew that wasn't healthy for me either. And so I also changed friends. And so he knew that the friends that I had now, they were holding me accountable. They weren't going to be like, no, ma'am. And so that was significant as well, because these were people that we went to church with, not to say all church people,
right.
But I'm just saying, he knew that these were the ladies that were holding me accountable. They were my accountability partners, and so it took time for us to build that trust back, but we did. And we're still married 30 years. So, yeah.
Awesome. Whew. I see, like, when, I watch TV and, my prior marriage, there was a lot of infidelity. And so I do understand on the other side of you having a partner that, betrayed your trust. And now you at a place where this person got to rebuild the trust back. So that can be hard. And for sometimes when people has broken the other person's trust and they're the person that now they got to prove that they are now trustworthy, it can be tiresome. And, sometimes be like, shoot, child, honey, I'm where I say I need to be at. He ain't got to, because now you feel like, oh my gosh, it's a control thing. I got to tell him this. I can't do nothing. And for those that are listening, like when you betray somebody's trust, you got to rebuild it. And sometimes it can take time. And the other person, it may take them 6 months, a year, 2 years. I don't know. But it's no time limit on that. It's no time limit. So you got to go and rebuild it and do what you have to do. Like you said, you had to call them, hey, I'm here, and you had to change your circle of friends to prove to him that you're serious about the change in your life, because you cannot just be around the same people that you was in your old life. And a lot of people don't get that. A lot of people don't get that.
Really, a whole lot of people don't get that.
Yeah. So listen, okay, so wow, that was a lot. And I'm so glad that, you guys are still together and still married. So what made you want to write this book? What inspired you to write the book?
Oh, child, when I tell you I did not want to write this book, do you hear me? I just remember I was working on a sermon one day, and as I was writing and researching for this sermon, I had started mentoring young girls in Kingston, because that was part of my purpose. God wanted to send me back to the very community that the drug dealer played a role in tearing down. Just talking to them about choices, consequences, knowing who they are, connections, making sure they're making God ordained connections and not just connecting to people because they're popular. And we were doing a great job with the girls, but we realized that our girls were going back home to dysfunction. So as I was writing this sermon, there were some pieces of it that God was saying to me, that needs to be a part of the curriculum for the moms. And I was like, oh, okay. So I reached out to my team and I was like, hey, we need to do a strategy day so that we can write a curriculum for the moms, so that we can make sure that our girls are going back to a healthy place and not us spinning this wheel of we getting them to a good place, then they're going back home to dysfunction, then we got to start over. So as we were working on the curriculum for the ladies, Bianca, who is our director of our leadership and mentoring program, said to me, she said, you need to write a book, because a lot of the stuff you're saying and the stuff that we're putting together in this curriculum, can really bless some women that aren't a part of who we mentor. And I was like, yeah, no, but appreciate you, sis. And so that just kind of began to weigh on me. And I started praying about it. And I was like, okay, God, if you want me to write this book, I am a confirmation person. I need you to send confirmation that what Bianca said was what you say. And then my pastor came to me and he was like, God said it's a book in you. And I was like, so this who you're going to send to confirm? Like, you couldn't send nobody else that I don't trust? And he was like, so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to pray about it. And he was like, you could pray about it, but I know what I heard God say. And I was like, oh, he came for me. So, I was like, okay, I can write a book. So I just started writing my book, but I started leaving out the parts that I didn't want to share. And God was like, no, go put that in. I was like, no, not gonna put that in. Like, I literally was in this argument with God. Like, I'm not putting that in. No, like, if you want me to write this book, then let me write the book. And he was like, okay, bet. And I was like, okay, we good. God said I can just write. So I'm just writing. And then, I will get to it and I was like, but I can't write that because it's connected to that. So I'm gonna have to pull that out. So let me go to something else. And then I was like, well, I can't write that because it's connected. And I was like, oh, you think you slick, don't you, God? Like, I couldn't write certain parts because it was connected to other parts. And I was like, but God, they gonna see the hole in me. And he was like, you missing it. They gonna see that. And I want them to see that because I also need them to see the redemption. And I was, but then folks gonna know all the stuff I done did. And he was like, this ain't about you. This ain't about you. This is about the women that I need to understand. I need them to get that their flesh is controlling them. And until they bring that flesh under the subjection of the Holy Ghost, some of these women are going to end up dead because they think it's cool and cute for this type of a lifestyle. And I was like, okay. And I wrote the book and sat on it for probably about a year.
Wow.
I was just like, people gonna judge me, people gonna this. And I was like, and I don't want Kim from Kingston to come out. So let me just sit on this book because I know me. I'm gonna be ready to fight folks and I just can't do it. And he was like, disobedience, or no, he said, delayed obedience is still disobedience. And I was like, oh, so you coming for me too? So I'm like, but God, he was like, if I told you to do it, then you got to know I got you covered. I was like, okay. And so I was asked to speak at a national conference in Georgia. And God said, release the book in Georgia. And I was like, bruh, it's like 5,000 women at this conference. I ain't gonna be able to do it. And he was like, this ain't about you. And I was like, I feel you. Hear me out, God. I feel you. But it is about me. He was like, you missing what I'm trying to do. And I was like, so like, instead of going down 20, can we just take like 285 or something, like bypass? And he was like, no, we're going to take the long road on this one. And I was like, and he was like, trust doesn't require you to see. Trust requires you to believe. I was like, okay. And I released the book and I sold out at that conference. Oh, wow. Because at the conference, I shared parts of my testimony, parts of the book. And like older women, I was really afraid because, they'd be like, oh, Lord, this child was a hoe and da-da-da. And I was just like, I don't want to have to deal. I don't want to cuss grandma out, God. So, I don't want to do it. And so, but they were the ones that was like, girl, God did a work in you. And I'm just like, I don't know how to take that money, but okay. But they were buying the book and and I had some older women say, baby, I can't read that trash, but I'm going to give it to my grandbaby. And I was like, okay, that's fair. That's fair. That is so fair. I get it. And so we just rolled with the punches. Wow. It was hard. It was really hard.
Yeah, because you had to go back and relive some of those stories again.
Oh, child. Yes. A lot of that trauma. Like, and to this day, I don't do well with like anything with fireworks because that's a trigger for me. Just hearing the sound of either the extension cord or the belt or the cord from the iron makes that popping sound. And so I don't do well with those type of events. Like 4th of July, I try to find somewhere where I know they ain't gonna do no fireworks at. I don't go to UAB games. I don't know if they still do fireworks, but back in the day, they used to do fireworks. Nope, can't do it. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a lot of the things that we have to deal with, those traumas, and recognize what triggers us so that we don't get back into those wheel of dysfunction.
Wow. Whew. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so it's a lot to digest. This is not something that is just like liquid form. This is steak, potatoes, and you just cannot swallow whole. You have to chew this. Like you got to chew this. So sometimes I'm just processing it. Okay, so now I want to talk about where you are today. I know that you and your business is called Empowered to Overcome Incorporated. So just kind of tell us how that got started, because I mean you are in a lot of different things, you know, like you are busy. Like I've seen a couple of your Facebook lives, and like you're a busy woman. So that's why I was so grateful to just have, you know, just a piece of your time just to sit down and do this, to encourage so many other people. But just kind of bring us forward to where you are today.
Sure. So I am the executive director of Empower to Overcome. Again, it was birthed from my purpose, going back and mentoring those young girls. We were meeting in the community pre-COVID. We had about 45 girls that we would meet with at least twice a week. And then COVID happened, so we went virtual, which was really hard because a lot of them are in under-resourced communities. So having access to the internet or having a laptop, or just a cell phone that has enough data for them to be able to be a part. So we've restructured now. When COVID was over, we went actually into the Birmingham City schools, and we were conducting LAMP, which is our leadership and mentoring program for girls ages 9 to 17. And then we have the End period, which is our mentoring program for adults 19 and older. The End is more of, most people just call it a deliverance ministry, because we're dealing with all of our past. We're dealing with women that are, we're digging deep into our past to resurface things that we've kind of buried, but they're still peeping their head up and affecting our not just our today, but they're affecting our purpose. And so we do that. All of our sessions are now virtual. And then I do a lot of one-on-one mentoring for women that are really like in domestic violence situations. I do those one-on-one because of the confidentiality nature, and a lot of them are still with their abuser. And so we have those confidential conversations. We're usually meeting like at a coffee house, or I may, take them to City Club so we can have some privacy somewhere where no one knows where we are, for them to really talk about how do they exit that relationship without, facing death. And so we do that. And then I'm also the executive director of the Community Kitchens of Birmingham, where we feed anyone that's hungry here in Birmingham from 2 locations. And so I'm also in my last year, thank God, of my PhD program at UAB. So I'm excited about that. So yeah, just a lot of things going on. My babies are all grown. Yeah. So I'm hurt. My babies are grown. My daughter's in South Africa. She's doing a 2-year stint for Peace Corps. My son is a musician at a church. So we don't get to see them often. But yeah, so we're empty nesters, which is really great for us because we have like totally reconnected, and we spend so much time together. We do so many dates. It's my daughter was saying this morning, she was like, y'all so cute. Look at y'all going on dates. And I was like, yeah, that's my man, my man, my man. So, but yeah, that's, just trying to balance all of that. I'm very good with boundaries. I don't have a problem saying no. I don't have a problem saying I don't have enough time. Here's the time I can allot you, depending on who it is, because sometimes people take advantage of your time. And so for our mentoring service, of course, there is no cost for that for Empower to Overcome. We do that at no cost because we want to see people healed, and right. That shouldn't always come with a cost. Depending on my one-on-one mentoring sessions, depending on who it is, there is a cost, because sometimes when there's not a dollar attached to it, people don't value it. And so I don't cast my pearls to swine. Depending on who you are, it is a cost for my one-on-one mentoring sessions. And it's not about, you paying for my skills or expertise or experience. It's about valuing my time. And then, once I realize the person is serious, a lot of times I say, okay, you don't have to pay anymore. But I just have to do that because people, I'm setting time aside, and then, I'm looking at my watch like, oh, I'm sorry, Miss Kim, girl, I got tied up. oh, this is what we doing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
yeah, but for the most part, there's definitely not a charge for our girls. We want to see our young girls grow up and thrive into the women that God have created, destined, and purpose for them to be. So we definitely do that at no cost for our girls.
so if somebody's listening right now and they want to reach out, they can reach out.
Absolutely. They can go onto our website at etoinc.org. They can complete the contact form for any type of, whether it's they want their daughter involved with LAMP, or they want to be a part of the end, or they want one-on-one sessions with me. They can always do that through our website, and our email address is listed there as well. So however they want to contact us, they can definitely do that. We prefer them contacting us through the website. That way we can track and make sure that we're responding to people, because if we give out a phone number, a lot of times, it may slip through the cracks that I forgot to call you back, and then people feel slighted. So it's easier to just send us that contact information through the website.
Awesome. Whew. Because this podcast, it streams all different places. It's syndicated, so we want people to be able. So if you're listening right now, you could just contact the website, and I'm going to actually put in the description as well, so that for those that are listening, once you click the play on the podcast, you can kind of see the information. So this has been so impactful. Let me tell you, this has been life-changing for me, because I'm still like soaking it in. So I know if you are a listener, you're still soaking this in. So go back and listen. Go back and listen more than once, because there's so much to feed off of. So let me say this, for the women that need encouragement, Kim, what would you say to them that have been in your shoes? I mean, and like you have some big shoes, like them some big shoes. So you've been through a lot of big shoes. So so hopefully nobody's been through all of that you've been through, but I know that somebody, has been through some of what you've been through. So can you encourage them, and what would you say to them?
I always tell ladies and girls, there's absolutely nothing that you can confess that'll make God love you any less. Nothing. There's nothing that you could do that will make God love you any less. And you have to spend time figuring out who you are, so that you can make decisions that align with your purpose, not just today, but you want to make decisions that align with your purpose tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. The decisions you make today will impact you 5 years from now. So make sure you're thinking about that when you're just making decisions every single day. Think about how it's going to impact you 10 years from now. The decision you make today, I need you to think about that. How is that going to impact you 10 years from now? Because if it's going to make a negative impact, you need to stop and rethink what you're about to do.
I love it. I've never heard nobody say it like that before, but I like it, because it puts you in the forward, in the future of your future self, because a lot of times people live in the moment, and they don't think about 5 years, 10 years, or even the next year. So they don't know what it is going to change. I know a lot of times people feel like that, what they do right then, it doesn't affect their family, but it does. It affects your children.
Absolutely.
It affects, everybody around you, because it's not just about you. If somebody get locked up, then somebody had to come and see you. Somebody is now, missed a mother or a father. So what you do now, it does affect you in the future. So like you said, Make sure it's positive. Make sure it's going to be life-changing for the betterment and not for the worse.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Kim. If somebody wanted to donate, because I know that you are looking for donations and volunteers or anything like that, is it any way that somebody can support you and support your foundation and everything that you have going on? Can they actually just go to the website and donate?
Absolutely. They sure can.
Okay. Yep. Perfect. So again, thank you so much for starting season 2 off with this power pack testimony. It has been awesome. It has been so awesome. And I thank you so much again for everything that you are doing in the community currently. I do myself volunteer. I volunteered, in the times past, and I don't mind volunteering now. Whatever you need help with, I am here. If you just need somebody to be boots on the ground, sometimes I catch you live, sometimes they pop up and sometimes they don't. But, if you need, because I know you were saying something about you needed somebody to do something. But yeah, I'm here. So, but I'll make sure that I look and see what you got going on. In the times that I'm available to volunteer, I don't mind at all.
Well, I truly appreciate that. And I'm so grateful that you even thought of me. So I'm grateful for that.
Well, you guys, this has been a wonderful podcast. It's a lot to chew on. Like I said, make sure you go back and listen. And y'all, I will see you guys on the next episode. I mean, this was so much, y'all. It's so much. I can't stop smiling. It's just soaking it in. Like, it was just awesome. So I will see you guys on the next episode. And don't forget to share this. Make sure that you like it. Make sure that you subscribe if you're watching us, whatever you're watching us on. Make sure you download this and make sure you give us a rating, you guys. I will see you guys on the next podcast. Bye for now.